and also for Japanese government bonds, and that will then drive money out of cash, bonds, into equities. So I'm actually quite positive about the Japanese stock market. But in the case of the U.S., I think they will inflate and they will print money. And the question whether we will have hyperinflation, I think we will have high inflation rates, much higher than is generally perceived, but maybe not tomorrow, maybe only in 3 or 4 years or 5 years or so. But I think it will happen.
Well,
concerning the dollar, the question is, against what will it go down? The other paper currencies are not much better. The euro is not much better than the US dollar. It's maybe slightly better, but not much better. And so the only true currencies that exist today are gold, silver, platinum, and palladium.
Doctor, let me throw this in at you then. Obviously, the Chinese realize that, and that's why they are now the biggest gold producer, are they not? I mean, clearly, they see where this is going, and if you have all these currencies, including the SDRs and the QE2 and the coming QE3, if they're all just basically another layered fiat derivative mix, then what is the only outcome of this debt black hole that gold and silver do emerge in the end as
Yes, provided it's not taken away from you. And I'd like to add that the U.S. has been printing money, but the others have done exactly the same. It's global. And so I think all the currencies will lose value against gold and silver. But there are other avenues. Say, throughout history, gold has frequently been taken away, expropriated. Even in the U.S. in 1933. They didn't expropriate it. They paid $25 an ounce. But then, after collecting all the gold from U.S. citizens, including going to the safe deposit boxes with sheriffs to take it out, they revalued it to $35. So I think today the U.S. government may take it away one day, they'll pay the price, and after they'll revalue it 5 times or whatever it is. But I think another avenue is to own farmland, and I think that real estate prices in the U.S. have come down. Okay, they may go down another 10%, but relatively to other countries and internationally, and after having declined, if you can find the house you like, I think it's not a bad time to buy a house in the U.S. It may not go up in value, but it may preserve its value.
Well, sir,
also, art and stamps are another avenue to protect your wealth.
Did you say art, sir?
Yes.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And, of course, you also advise and are on the board of directors of many powerhouse companies. And clearly, whereas housing prices have gone down, we do see farmland all over the world skyrocketing. And obviously, is that because the elites and those that know what's going on are rushing into farmland, sir?
Well, I know quite a few extremely well-to-do people who have second thoughts about life in big cities and the security in big cities if, say, the unrest in the Middle East would also spread to developed countries. And also, they also know that we might have problems with modern warfare that would include cyber war or switching off the electricity or biological warfare that would touch, and terrorism that would touch the big cities. So they want to be safe. They buy an island, they buy farmland in the middle of nowhere.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I know a lot of wealthy people, truly wealthy that I've run into here in Austin. And, of course, you obviously have run into about 1 million times more than I have. We're running in the highest circles.
Well, I don't think so. I'm a social defender.
but I mean, just running into well-known, people off record told me 4 years ago that the U.S. and the entire world economy was going to collapse via the derivatives and that they were basically fleeing. I mean, I even know about John Wayne. Part of his family just ran off to Central America. I mean, so many people are evacuating. Some of the richest people in Israel, it's been in the news, are evacuating Israel. I mean, what do the elite know that the general public hasn't been let in on, Doctor?
Well, there's another element. Because of the advent of computers, the fax machine, and in the last 20 years, the Internet, if I'm a hedge fund manager, if I'm a well-to-do person, I can run my business from anywhere. I sit here in the north of Thailand. I have Bloomberg, I have computer access, I have everything. So I don't need to be in a big city. I can choose a lifestyle to be in a small city and have a large estate, or to be in the countryside.
So that's a big part of the shift. I had a caller earlier who, before you came on, who wanted me to ask you about gold mining supplies versus demand, and could China or some other country or group dump a bunch of gold on the market and really knock it down far? Or is, from what I've read, China is mining a lot but consuming it and selling it because of demand?
Well, first of all, if you look at the international reserves at the hands of central banks and the wealth accumulation over the last 20 years among well-to-do people, the international reserves have grown from $1 trillion to now $9.5 trillion. The Chinese, they have $2.5 trillion. The Asians have 70% of the $9.5 trillion. The Asians, they have 2% of these reserves invested in gold. Very little. The Reserve Bank of India bought, a year ago, 200 tons at roughly $1,040. Now it's 1,400. The Chinese, it's kind of a loss of faith for them to go into the open market and buy and announce that they're buying gold. But what they produce, they keep, and they have given incentives and created programs in China whereby individuals can now buy gold.
So they're bullish on gold.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, they're not bullish on the U.S. dollar, and they're not bullish on Mr. Obama, and they were never bullish on Mr. Bush.
So in layman's terms, Doctor, you've got all these countries sitting on trillions of dollars of dirty crud paper, not worth the paper it's written on, and so and so the entire magnetic or gravitational pull is only towards metals. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think that investors gradually realize that, say, if you're an investor for the next 10 years, what you don't want to own is, say, a 30 years U.S. government bond. You don't want to own a 10 years U.S. government bond at the yield of 3.6%. So what else is there? You can buy stocks, you can buy precious metals, you can buy commodities. But commodities, the industrial ones and the agricultural ones and the soft, are very volatile, and usually the supply response is relatively short. In other words, there's a shortage of wheat and soybeans, corn. Within 1 year, you can plant more. But in the case of precious metals, you can't do that. The same for oil. The supply response is very slow. And so the Chinese, if they could, they would buy all the American oil companies. Chevron, ExxonMobil, Marathon Oil, whatever it is, and BHP and Rio Tinto. But politically, these countries, I mean, the U.S., Australia, Canada, will not allow the Chinese to do that. So what else do they want to do? They go and buy concessions in Venezuela, in Latin America, in general, and in Africa, Central Asia, and so forth and so on, and develop their own resources.
Mr. Faber, is it accurate to say that we're buying junk here in the U.S. with our money, they're buying real hard assets? Is it accurate that they own, that they're now producing over 90% of rare earth minerals, the Chinese?
That is correct.
Okay.
But the U.S. could produce much more. But the problem in the U.S. is that exploration, like, generally speaking, capital spending, which means education, R&D, infrastructure, plants and equipment, was neglected.
Yes, sir.
Because the government's economic policies and the federal economic policy, the federal board's economic policies target consumption and not investment.
Yes, sir. We're almost out of time. In the last 3 minutes we have with you, are we in a global depression? Are we entering one? Or are we going to enter one? And just overall summing up the state of the world economy and...
You mentioned earlier on the word end game. We are in the end game, but we are currently in a cracker boom. A cracker boom is when you postpone a recession through money printing and credit growth. The credit growth is not strong in the private sector, but it's much worse. It's in the government sector. And the government is the most unproductive factor in economic life. And so this cracker boom will end very badly. But before it ends badly, we'll have money printing, very high inflation, and when everything fails, the U.S. will go to war. They are already in war, but they'll increase it.
Absolutely. And you're saying 2 to 4 years is the main vector zone?
Well, in my view, by printing money, you can postpone the evil, the end of the end game, for, say, 7 to 10 years.
Really?
In Latin America, they did it between 1980 and 89.
But now now that the hangover is so much bigger, and it looks like everything is starting to accelerate so much faster. And you say we have dumb presidents. Well, it's just they're just looting the country. I mean, you know, for the special.
They are deluding the country. They're lying.
Yes.
And the fact is simply this: for the typical household, and I'm not speaking here of the Goldman Sachs partners and Wall Street. But for the typical household, the median household, the average American, the standards of living have gone down.
Yes.
And they will continue to go down under the present economic policies.
And that's why they put a police state grid in preemptively. It's extremely premeditated. Well, Mr. Faber, the website's gloomboomdoom.com. We haven't had you on in about a year. I know you're very busy. I want to thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you so much, sir, and I look forward to speaking to you in the near future. Again, Gloom, Boom, Doom.
So do I.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon, sir. Amazing information. Oh, boy, I tell you. And that guy is super high-powered, and his predictions are spot on. And we're not being negative here. It's best to know the truth and make preparations for it, isn't it? Woo.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Diamond Gusset is proud to announce the anthem of the Patriot Movement. They're offering a free CD, T-shirt, and bumper sticker with a qualifying purchase. Diamond Gusset offers great products at great prices while keeping Americans working.
I'm looking for a factory where a man can feed his family, not worried about them moving it south, closing the doors and shutting her down tomorrow. I'm looking for America.
We're American and be proud. Go to gusset.com/America.